You can't just work on strengthening exercises for your uneven shoulders and expect them to even out and stay that way. Now, I know you might have seen a lot of people on YouTube or even reputable physical therapists that you know recommending shoulder blade strengthening exercises to even your uneven shoulders out, but you're here watching this now, so you probably know that this isn't the whole story. Now, hopefully in this video, we'll be able to fill in the gaps for you so you can make progress that actually sticks. And for those of you who don't know me, my name's Greg Chaplin. I'm a physical therapist and strength and conditioning specialist. I run this channel and a business called Chaplin Performance, which is an online wellness coaching business where I help people get moving better. I made this business because I was once in chronic pain, tried every training approach in the book with seemingly no results. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I don't want you to make the same mistakes. So if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to this channel and enjoy the video. So before we get into the actual reasons, I just want to say that these will go in a sequential order. So if you're having trouble fixing your uneven shoulders because of reasons 1 or 2, chances are you won't be able to skip to reasons 4 or 5 and implement those with any degree of success. So if you listen to reasons 1 and 2 and you feel kind of skeptical, chances are you might be the one that has to actually evaluate those areas a little bit more carefully. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. Okay, so reason number 1 that you can't fix your uneven shoulders is not a mechanical reason per se, but has to do with the general state of your nervous system and brain. Oftentimes we're jumping into these strengthening or restorative type activities without taking into account the general state of our nervous system. If your nervous system is on high alert, then it's likely going to be resistant to change, and when you try to push it into these new positions, it might sense that new position as being unreliable or even threatening. This likely applies to you if every time you do some sort of strengthening or restorative type activity, you end up just feeling worse and then back in your old pattern. If this is the case, you might want to start by taking stock of other wellness behaviors that can affect the general state of your nervous system. These would include getting enough high quality sleep, having proper hydration, proper nutrition, getting regular moderate intensity cardiovascular exercise, and performing some sort of mindfulness practice such as meditation or even journaling. Oftentimes we're so used to the default state of our brain and nervous system in our day-to-day that we fail to assess how much of an effect they might be having. Examining your physical and mental wellness behaviors often has a profound effect on other habitual behaviors such as posture. So if you have all your other wellness behaviors in check and you're still having trouble with uneven shoulders, chances are you might have an issue related to how you're breathing. Breathing and posture go hand in hand. They're kind of like coffee and milk or salt and pepper. And chances are where there's uneven shoulders, there's also an issue with breathing. So with that being said, the second reason people have difficulty making changes with their uneven shoulders is because of how their body is using their positioning and posture to breathe. Now this is usually a case of over-breathing. So if you're someone who's been doing restorative type activities and utilizing deep breaths, but afterwards you're always feeling worse, and then you seem to have either worse or the same uneven shoulders, you're likely over-breathing during exercise, and chances are you might also be over-breathing at rest. Now with over-breathing, we're oftentimes using muscles that wouldn't otherwise be used for breathing in order to help us with the breathing process. These are termed accessory muscles of breathing and can include the muscles of the back, rib cage, neck, or shoulder girdle. Now, if these muscles are pulling double duty, both helping us to breathe and maintain joint position, this oftentimes exacerbates postural issues rather than counteracting them. So the good news is that if you fall into this category, the solution is not too complex. It's actually just to reduce both the rate of breathing and also the effort. So if you're someone that's over-breathing, you're probably using a little bit too much effort and you're breathing at a rate that's a little bit too high. So we want to aim for inhales and exhales that are between about 4 and 7 seconds. And overall per minute, we want to shoot for about a 5 to 7 second breath rate. Now this isn't something that you would try to maintain all the time, but this is just a little bit of a breathwork practice that you could do, which is actually called resonant frequency breathing, which helps to balance out the breathing mechanisms and sync them up with the rest of the body systems. So this is going to help with point 1 and point 2. And if you can reduce that work of breathing over time, chances are those accessory muscles will let go and the postural issues that are associated with them oftentimes go away as well. So now moving on to number 3, if you've addressed the general state of your nervous system and you've stopped chronically overbreathing, but you still have uneven shoulders, chances are your rib cage might be oriented in space. Now a lot of us try to use specific positioning and breathing drills to drive expansion and compression through different areas of the rib cage, or we use strengthening activities to try to get the shoulder blades into certain positions and utilize muscles in a specific way. However, a lot of us aren't taking into account the overall position of the rib cage. In order to demonstrate this, let's bring my friend Ronnie the rib cage out and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Now to give a common example, a lot of people have a rib cage that's oriented to the right like this. And what that ultimately does is it brings the ribs on the right into a state of internal rotation and the ribs on the left into a state of external rotation. Now, a lot of people jump right to activities that try to expand this front right and expand this back left in order to counteract that rib position. However, these small motions in between the ribs and the sternum and in between the ribs and the spine are not accessible when we've moved the whole rib cage as a unit. So the first step in this case is to be able to move the rib cage back into a more balanced orientation where we're going to have more access to those small motions of rib to sternum and rib to spine, and then from there we can initiate our positional breathing drills with a greater degree of success because we're going to have access to those motions. Okay, so moving on to reason number 4 as to why you can't fix your uneven shoulders. This has to do with losing the ability to expand and compress in certain areas of the rib cage. So let's say we've gone through number 1, 2, and 3. We've reoriented that rib cage into a more balanced orientation. Chances are we're still going to have some shape change within the rib cage that's related to the orientation that we were in. So if we just play off that example that we used a second ago, when we have someone that was oriented to the right, usually they have a rib cage that's compressed on the front of the right side and the back of the left side. So the right side is going to be an internal rotation, while the left side is going to be an external rotation. We're going to see the shoulder blades usually follow this pattern. So the shoulder blade on the right will be wrapping around and oftentimes low, where the shoulder blade on the left will be coming closer to the spine and oftentimes elevated. Now usually this reorientation will change the unevenness in this plane side to side to a degree, but oftentimes we have to expand this upper right side here and then this left side here. The way we're going to do that is we're going to drive breathing in very specific positions using some sort of an activity that compresses this space on the right side and then expands this space on the left side and compresses this space on the left side and expands this space on the right side. If we can perform those activities to bias the expansion into specific areas, we can actually reshape the rib cage so that the shoulder blades begin to sit more evenly on a rib cage that is now a more symmetrical shape. Now the great thing about this is that if we can reshape the rib cage by driving expansion and compression into certain areas, we don't have to work at all to keep our shoulders into this even position, because after all, posture should be effortless. So if you're trying to work hard to maintain your shoulder in a certain position, chances are that you have not gone through steps 1, 2, 3, or 4. Okay, so reason number 5 really relates to getting these changes to stick. So if you're someone who's gone through steps 1 through 4 and now you have even shoulders, but the second you get under load, you go right back into your old pattern and then those shoulders are uneven again, what's really the point there? So reason number 5 is that you're not strong enough in these positions. Now the good news here is that the solution is actually relatively simple. We take all the principles from those first 4 steps and then we integrate them into our resistance training in a progressive manner. So this might look like using a position very similar to some of our positional breathing drills, but then slightly increasing the load over time. Now over time we can make the activities a little bit more challenging so that it's a little bit harder to maintain this even shoulder position, and if we can do that successfully, that's going to increase the probability that we can sustain these changes throughout our daily life. Transitioning to a strength training program is something that I work with in depth inside of my movement coaching program, so if you need help with that, go ahead to chaplinperformance.com and go ahead and book in on a consultation. Now if you've gone through steps 1 through 5 and you're still having issues maintaining your even shoulder position, you likely have something going on a little bit further down in the kinetic chain, such as a lateral pelvic tilt. If that sounds like you, go ahead and watch this video.